Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Brookside Conversations podcast. My name is Lucas, and I'm the director of online community here at Brookside Baptist Church. We are a local Baptist church in North Canada, Ontario, which is a suburb of Ottawa, Ontario. And wherever you're joining from, we're so excited that you've joined today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And on that channel, you're also going to find our sermon series that come up every single week, and even our worship experiences. The full thing is live streamed on Sunday morning, so make sure you don't miss out on those because they're really life-giving and they're really great services. And I'd love for you to check them out. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts, make sure that you subscribe or follow just so that you don't miss these episodes. This podcast is all about having honest conversations about life and faith. And today on the podcast, we have Pastor Greg McRobbie doing a bit of a recap in a series that we call the Banter, where we just talk through the most recent sermon series. And this last sermon series was super practical about setting goals for your spiritual life. And this conversation, we just dive into a couple key aspects of that sermon series, something that Greg has been working on even in his very personal life, and something that we have in store for you guys coming up. So really, really excited for this podcast episode. This conversation was so wonderful. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Greg McRobbie on this episode of The Banter. Well, hey, Greg, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Love to be here. So glad to be able to jump in and take part of this. I love how the podcast has been going, by the way, just the fact that we're kind of zooming in on some of the key things that are going on, some of the key people. It's awesome. Awesome job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been really encouraging to me to have dialed in conversations with some key leaders in the church that sometimes you just kind of take it all for granted, but there's so much going on behind the scenes, and it's been really cool to talk through some of that. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it's going too.
Awesome.
We are back in a series that we like to call The Banter, where we just have a chit chat about the most recent sermon series. So the February series, Goals Worth Setting. Could you give us just kind of a rundown, kind of a bird's eye view as what that series was all about?
Sure thing. Probably got cued off a little bit from the typical January New Year's resolution that we're going to change our lives kind of thing, and how it basically fizzles out to almost nothing by January 3rd, February is the month for forgetting about what we were saying we were going to do back in January. And one of the things that really kind of resonated in my heart as I was thinking and praying for us as a church family was I want to do everything I can to help us not go there, at least not spiritually. The thing that kind of came across my mind, I don't know how many other people may know, I've been playing guitar for a long time, 40 years. 40 years I've played guitar. I'm still I suck. I'm still mediocre.
You say playing guitar, but I know you haven't played in a long time.
I haven't played in a while. Yeah, I know.
Been playing.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's so many people. They say, yeah, oh, I love this. I love doing this, but when was the last, I love cooking good food, but when was the last time you really went for it? Really did it?
Yeah. And so often what we do, I know it was one of my downfalls looking back on my guitar playing career, is I'm still kind of practicing some of the things whenever I do pick up my guitar. What I go to is some of the things I learned back when I was 16, 40 years ago. I'm and as I'm sure you can describe really well in learning how to develop your skills out of guitar playing. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. You may get really good at that, but that's all you're good at. You're not developing. You have to take new things. You have to try new experiences. You have to take kind of the next hill. And with this goal setting, that was really kind of on my heart. It's how can we help our people not just kind of spin around in the same ruts year after year after year? How can we motivate our people to take a next step. Like, what's the next hill? How can I get a little higher on the hill? Like all of that kind of thing was really at the core of it. And we touched on probably some of the most important areas for that as we went through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. You can get, I think a lot of people can very quickly understand what we're trying to say here. Like, when you become a Christian, there's a bit of a rocket blaster moment when everything seems really exciting, and you feel real, true spiritual freedom. You're given the gifts of the Spirit and new things. Your spiritual life is given to you. Like, when you become a Christian, like, that's an incredible one, like, just incredible moment. And the cultural side that comes along with that. So you start going to church, or you start getting in a life group, or you start serving on a team, or you start giving, you start these things. But if you stay in that, it's exactly what you just said. If you stay in that moment for years and decades and just for so long, then it is kind of what Paul talked about. Like, you're still drinking the milk, and you've been doing this for your whole life,
Yeah, you should be a lot further along the journey. And I know for a lot of people, like you say, like, there's excitement. I've just come to faith. I just entered a relationship with God. I've had my sins forgiven. This is awesome. And then it's like, they look around. So what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Oh, show up at church and listen to some sermons, and, take in a study or that kind of thing. And it's like, is that it? I guess so. And they just kind of coast and like the potential to miss out on the most exciting life there is huge. Like, we can easily just kind of assume that following Jesus means a endless series of sermons. It's like, wow, that's exciting.
No, yeah. I mean, those habits, so even in the youth group, we're talking about habits. And so the habit of going to church is going to be, it will be what you make it. And if you make it something really significant, it will be really significant. If you just make it a kind of a calendar of events thing, it's not that significant. So you, as the one in the driver's seat, would you call it the driver's seat in the teaching ministry? And let's just say Jesus is in the driver's seat.
Amen. I do my best to try and see where he's going and catch up.
Yeah.
Try and keep up. Yeah.
So as you're teaching through this, God is at work in your life too. So I would love to hear, like, even as you're reading through these passages and praying through this, all preparing, what were some of the things that kind of stuck out to you in a more personal way?
Sure. That's a great question. Like I said earlier, we really zeroed in on probably some of the most important areas of our lives. We talked about our personal growth, and for a lot of people, it's not really even much on the radar. It's like, yeah, I'm supposed to grow spiritually, but I don't really know what that means. And I'm not really worried. I guess it means show up again to the next event, show up to the next service, show up to this, show up to that. And Paul's words in Philippians 3 just really grab a hold of my heart. It's like, he's like, everything else is garbage. Everything else is worthless compared to this. Knowing Jesus Christ. And that's not just knowing about him and information about him, but having a personal, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. Paul's like, everything else takes backseat. Everything else doesn't matter compared to this. This is what my life is going to be about. And for me personally, it's like, it's so, and I'm full-time ministry guy. I'm always doing ministry stuff, the Lord's work. It's so easy to kind of go into automatic pilot and do the thing and miss out on developing my relationship with God. So I know for me personally, one of the big things through this is make sure that in the midst of my teaching and my leading and my everything, I am pursuing Jesus Christ with everything I've got. That for me was probably one of the big takeaways. One of the others was James, who brother of Jesus, And he was like, don't just listen to the word. You got to do it. Don't be hearers only. You've got to do what it says. If you're only hearing it, if you're only listening and going, oh, that was a great message. I could probably teach that. If that's all we're doing, we're fooling ourselves. And I don't want to fool myself. I don't want to get to the end of my life and go, oops, did a lot of blabbing, did a lot of talking, but I missed the boat. I want the reality of it in my life fully in every way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, some of the, was it week 2? I think it was week
2 is financial practices. And
so
goals,
we always start that kind of conversation with like we don't like to talk about finances in the church too much. And there is some legitimacy to people being hurt by churches and finances. And it can sometimes be a bit of a sensitive topic and everything. But I was extremely encouraged by the sermon, by the message, but just by the, I get so excited about things of plans for the future. And when we start to talk about what it could look like for all of us to contribute above and beyond what we are even comfortable with, to sacrificially obey. And it is a touchy topic, and people don't talk about money a lot, but this year specifically, I was just like, yeah, this is like, well, I was challenged and kind of excited, inspired by like what's possible. And so yeah, I think it was a good fit because it's not just this broad, be a good steward, but it was like, what are your goals for this year in your stewardship of how you manage your money, like really practical. And I think that's necessary sometimes to get really practical and to kind of, to take the opportunity to gently challenge people. And it was certainly a life-giving week for me. And, very practical. We came away, Taryn and I, and like actually talked about it. And, it was really cool.
That's really the intention of that particular message and all of them. It's like, let's make it practical. If we're just walking away going, oh, that was interesting, and oh, that made me think, then we're really missing the point. We're falling into the trap that James said, don't be just listeners, do what it says. Financial practices to me are at the core. They reveal so much about where we really are at. Who do we really trust in? What do we really believe in? Do we really trust God? Are we really wanting to be faithful to him? Take a look at your pocketbook, take a look at your giving history, and you'll see the answers. We talked about the difference between living for accumulation and kind of giving God whatever is left over, which usually isn't much, or living for generosity and putting God first. And that's such a critical and life-giving thing. And that's we tried to really emphasize that this is the way of life. Yeah.
And he's a good father. It's not like he's gonna leave you high and dry, especially if you're honestly trying to put him first in every part of your life and not holding back. One quote about money that just always, and we can move on from this in a second, but it always sticks in my head is like, if you can't live off 90% of your income, then there's something bigger going on than just, I need that other 10% too. Because I mean, if you put it in a percent like that, it's like, it's not, 90% of your income still should be enough to live on.
There's another saying that often pops in my head, which is it's got a little bit of bigger stick to it, is make your giving in line with your income, or God will make your income in line with your giving. It's like, ooh,
yeah, that does have a bigger stick.
That has a bit of a ooh to it.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's
yeah. But I mean, anyways, go back and listen. Listeners, go back and listen to that sermon on our YouTube channel, because it is a good one and very powerful and inspiring at the same time.
Yeah.
So, again, as the leader of the teaching ministry here at Brookside, I'm sure as you're going through each week, there's key things that the Holy Spirit is giving to you that is like kind of overall in the life of Brookside, kind of from a bigger perspective, like in the life of Brookside. What were some of the things that you really felt we needed to hear through this teaching series?
Yeah, great question. To me, some of the things that kind of, in terms of our thinking and our mindset and our approach to life and ministry, one of the things that I really wanted to help people get is that this is something for you. Like whether it's being faithful with your finances or being faithful in serving or making, like we talked about in the third week, it was about disciple making, not just listening and hearing and learning and being able to score higher on a theology test, but actually investing in the lives of others. And until we get to that place where we're not really fully engaged as a follower of Jesus, we need to be investing in the lives of others who are investing in the lives of others who are investing in the life. All of that. This is for you. Like this is the life that you're trying to find by like usually we ignore these things because we're trying to find a great life. And then we'll add God in. If I can get enough money, then I'll have a great life. If I get the right job, then I'll have the right life. All this kind of stuff. And then I'll tack servant God on the end. And Jesus is like, you've got it backwards. Like, trust me, lean in these things. You'll have a far better, far more valuable, far greater life. Because often when you talk about giving, that's the first people think, right? It's like, oh, you want more money. You're trying to get something from me. It's like, well, God's actually got enough money. We don't need it. He'll give us what we need. But
and I'm even thinking about
out on the blessing.
I'm even thinking about friendships and relationships. If we are, like you said, in number 3, we talked about discipleship goals, identifying your Paul and your Timothy, someone who is kind of helping you as a disciple to grow, but then also someone who is kind of learning from you and you're helping them to grow. And I think sometimes we go about our relational lives, and it's either surface level or only peers, like, and it's just only those kind of level. And when you enter into a relationship with Jesus, it changes your worldview so that we believe that there is so much more to life than just the 80, 90 years that you're here on earth. And so if you're not investing, like actually investing with intention, with purpose, with like a goal in mind in your relationships, then you're doing a disservice and you're not living in line with what you actually believe. So I just thought that was so powerful too. Like, your relationships matter and they should not just be haphazard, at least not with everybody. Like, you got to pick a few relationships and just go for it.
Yeah, totally. Find some people that are a little bit further ahead than you. And sometimes, like you say, we kind of, we don't want to admit that somebody's further ahead. Well, there's always somebody that's further
Absolutely,
ahead. There's tons of people way further ahead of me. And I'm, trying to dig into their lives and build relationships with them. There's other people that are not as far along the journey. We need to be reaching both directions. Reach up, reach down, reach back, kind of working in both of those areas transforms our lives. One of the things that just you were asking, kind of practically speaking for us as a church family, and I don't think I really mentioned it during the series, but it's something that it's a bonus for today.
Bonus,
yeah. Like what we are, and it's one of our goals. It's a goal for me personally. It's a goal at our leadership development level. We're going to be rolling out this new engagement model, which is a system that helps us help everybody figure out where they're at so that you can set goals, so that you can grow, so that you can make practical steps. So we're doing everything we can as church family, as leadership, to say, we want to help you with this goal thing. It's scary, it's tough, and you're going to get discouraged, and it's easy to lose steam, right? Coming into March, where like it's easy to forget about all this stuff already. So one of the things I want to encourage us as we kind of move forward is embrace that system. As you get the note, please just fill out this survey and be a part of this. Again, this is not trying to get stuff out of you. It's a way to help you grow. It's a way to help you set goals, and it's a way to help us help one another to do that. So that's just something that is like a really practical, easy next step for us in this whole process.
It makes me think of a grocery store fully stocked saying, I want to give my community food. They come here and they can have it, but no one comes. You have to, there's a tiny bit of work you got to do to fill your cart. And anyways, maybe it's not a perfect analogy, but
that's a great one.
What's cool about the church is we give it away for free.
Yeah.
This is just, we want to be God's vessels. We want to just be generous people in our community. And we're working very hard to just help people engage and grow and develop.
Another analogy that comes to my mind is a fitness center. You walk into a gym and there's like 1,000 machines and there's weights over there and there's these other stuff. And it's like, I wonder what they do and how does that work and how are you supposed to do it? And you can walk in and do self-serve and figure it out. Or you can have a trainer come along and help you. Okay, this is what this machine does. And if you're going to what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Okay, then you need this kind of plan. And here's how you do it. Here's how you set it up. Like that's the kind of, that for us, that's really what we're trying to do here with something like this is how can we help people figure out what their next step is, how to exercise well, how to keep yourself from getting hurt as you do it, all of that.
Absolutely. Wow. It's so good that we have these really practical biblical insights. And I just want to take the time to thank you so much for spending the time to dig into the word and bring it to the church family. So thank you so much for that.
It is an honor and a privilege. I often say that, at least to myself, if not to everybody else, like I am so blessed. Like I get to do this for a living. Like this is it's a sweet gig.
Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast, Pastor Greg.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, well, that was such a great conversation with Greg about goal setting. And man, goal setting is such a power tool for your spiritual life. And I would love to hear how goals are helping to spur your spiritual life along. If you want to send us a DM at Hello Brookside on social or send us an email, that'd be great. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe or follow wherever you listen to this podcast, because I just don't want you to miss out on next week's podcast, which is the time that we're going to talk about how to stay connected in a digital world. It can be kind of scary. It can be kind of feel isolated. It can feel kind of like how am I going to find my connection? How am I going to keep my relationships growing? But there are tips and tricks to keep your relational life healthy, strong, vital. And so we're going to share with you some of those tips and tricks next week on how to keep connected in a digital world. And if you want more from Brookside, we've got lots going on. Go to mybrookside.church. Make sure you sign up for the Brookside Brief email newsletter, which comes out on Fridays. It's just a great place to stay connected with things that are happening at Brookside Baptist Church. And thank you for listening to the Brookside Conversations podcast.